Hi, my name is Precious and you are welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm so excited because I'm showing you guys how I make my African chicken stew. Tomato stews are so common in West Africa. I grew up eating so many kinds of tomato stews, and I'm showing you what is probably the most special version, because we make this version for Christmas, for New Year, for special occasions. Is this version with chicken, and I'm going to show you guys how to make it really flavorful to die for. Okay, let me show you guys the ingredients we need and then we'll start cooking. You need chicken. For African chicken stew, I love to use hard chicken. This is organic hard chicken which I got from an Asian store. You need tomatoes, large Roma tomatoes. I have 6 of them here. If your tomatoes are smaller, use about 8. You need some white pepper. Of course, you guys know I love my white pepper. You need some tomato paste, 6 ounces of tomato paste. In grams, that's 170 grams. You need a teaspoon of salt. You also need a bunch of herbs. Right here I have basil, and this is basil. I get a lot of questions about basil. A lot of people want to know what it is called in their local languages. I'm from Cameroon and we call this manjo. If you're from Nigeria or another country, do you recognize this herb and how do you call it in your country? Please leave a comment below and let us know, because a lot of people ask me, what the local name is, and I don't really have an answer for them. Okay, that's basil. If you can find it, use it. It's really going to add flavor to the stew. Then I also have 1 big stem of celery. Yes, celery also adds a lot of flavor, and I have a lot of parsley. I have about 6 sprigs of parsley here. This is Italian parsley, but curly parsley is fine as well. Over here, I have 1 large onion that I have chopped. Right here, I have 1 cup, yes, 1 cup of vegetable oil, but any neutral tasting oil you have on hand would work as well. Right here I have about 2 inches of ginger root that I peeled and I chopped up, and then you need a whole bunch of garlic, about 10 garlic cloves, you guys. Right here I have my Maggi seasoning cubes, also known as stock cubes. If you don't have Maggi seasoning cubes, you could totally use any bouillon powder you have on hand. For each cube of Maggi, use 1 teaspoon of bouillon powder. Right here I have a teaspoon of curry powder. This is an optional ingredient for me because the stew is going to taste so great with the garlic, ginger and the herbs, but I love adding a little curry powder at the end. You could add it as well or you could leave it out. Okay friends, let's make some delicious African chicken stew. Let's start with the chicken. Okay, I'm going to start by cutting my chicken, and my chicken came with the head and everything, you guys. Like that. I'm going to cut off the head, but I'm going to leave this neck bone in. So I'll discard this. Okay friends, now that our chicken is all cut off, I'm going to go ahead and prepare our seasoning blend. This is what is going to make this chicken stew extra tasty, extra special. So into the blender goes my garlic and ginger. Then I'm going to add all the herbs into the blender. So the celery, I'm just breaking that with my hand. You could chop them on a blender if you want to. On a chopping board if you want to, not on a blender. I'm going to add the basil. Then I'm going to add a little bit of water to help my blender. Cover that. All done, and it smells so good, and that color. I live for this green seasoning. So I'm going to add 1/3 of the onions to the chicken, the 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 seasoning cubes or Maggi, or 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon powder. I'm going to add in about half of the green seasoning. Then I'll add in about a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground white pepper, because white pepper and chicken, they are just a match made in heaven. So if you can get white pepper, go for it, but if not, you could just add a little bit of black pepper. Now I'll stir everything together so they can get to know each other, It smells so good already, and we've not even started cooking. So you want the water to be about the same level as the chicken. You can see how much water I've added is about the same level as the chicken. And I've also made sure to stir everything so that, you know, they are evenly distributed. I'm just going to cover the pot, turn on the heat, put it on high heat, and let that cook until the chicken is completely done. So I'm just going to pour my remaining green seasoning into this bowl right here. I'm going to use the same blender to blend my tomatoes. No need to clean the blender because it's getting to the same pot of food anyway. So to the tomatoes, I'm going to add another 1/3 of the chopped onions. So I'm going to blend them together. I have my pot here on high heat, so I'm just going to pour in all of the oil and heat that up just for a few minutes to saute the onions. Now I'm going to add the remaining chopped onions. Now I'm going to add in the blended tomatoes, and we're going to let that cook until the tomatoes shrink and start sticking to the pot and they no longer taste sour. That is going to take about 10 to 20 minutes. So when the tomatoes are cooking, you want to make sure that you go in and stir them from time to time, because when they start sticking to the pot, if you don't stir them enough, they are going to burn. Okay friends, our chicken is all done. So I have my oven set to broil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this chicken in the oven, put the chicken in the oven to gain some color. Okay, so the reason I'm doing that is that it's going to make it even more flavorful. And typically this chicken will be fried, but I'm going to do it in the oven because less oil, and it's also going to be quicker for me. I don't have to, you know, wait for the chicken to be fried before I start making my stew. I'm already making my stew, so I'm going to put everything on my baking sheet here, and you can see that my baking sheet has a rack on it so that the excess liquid can drip, and I've lined it with aluminum foil. That's going to mean easy cleanup. Cooking the chicken together with the seasoning first helps the chicken to absorb those amazing flavors. I'll just like to show you guys the chicken stock. We're going to add this to the stew. Look at that, so much flavor. All of this goodness is going into the oven to broil. So I'm moving my pot of stew over to this burner because it's my biggest burner and I want the stew to go quickly. And you can see that I placed the lid on top just because it was starting to splatter too much, and you don't want like the thing to just splatter all over the place and dirty your kitchen. So at this point I'm going to put a lid on top to control that. Show you guys what it looks like. Look at that. See that a lot of the liquid, or a bit of the liquid, has reduced, you know, and the oil is starting to come on top. It's going to keep reducing. The tomatoes are going to keep shrinking. So when it gets to this point that the water has significantly reduced and it's mostly just the tomatoes and the oil, you want to keep a close eye on it, constantly stirring, because this is the point where it's going to burn really quickly. Look at our chicken, you guys. So I'm just going to flip the chicken to the other side and then let the other side broil as well, so that both sides can have this amazing color and flavor. Now I'm going to add in the tomato paste. going to take out the chicken. So the chicken cooked on the first side for about 8 minutes. Then I flipped them to the other side and they cooked for another about 5 or 6 minutes. Now I'm going to add the green seasoning that we reserved. Let me show you guys the texture of the tomatoes. Look at that. It's really shrunk. You see that? With the fresh and the tomato paste, they've cooked down. They are looking good. So in goes our green seasoning. And stirring the green seasoning in oil like this really helps those flavors to bloom. So I let the spices cook in there for about 2 minutes. That's my green spices. While I just kept stirring from time to time. It smells so good, you guys. Now I'm going to add the chicken stock that we reserved. Look at that. I'm going to rinse this pot and add in some more liquid. It's starting to splatter, so I'm just reducing the heat. Keep it down really low. This is my least favorite part of making stew, when it just splatters everywhere. Anyways, I'm going to go in with the curry powder. Add that. Then I'll go in with the Maggi, the remaining Maggi. Then I'm going to add the chicken into the stew. Stew is coming together. Just the smell of the stew, the chicken, everything just takes me back to my childhood days when we would make stew for Christmas to eat with rice. Oh my god, smells so good. Look at that. So now what you want to do is just let the chicken simmer together with the stew so those flavors can marry. The chicken can marry all the flavors in the stew. So I'm going to give it a taste to make sure the seasoning is okay. So good. Just a little bit of salt. Then I'm also going to add in a good amount of white pepper. I have some hot fluffy rice here and I'm going to put some stew. So much flavor, you guys. If you like hot pepper, you could definitely throw some habaneros, scotch bonnet peppers when you're blending the tomatoes, but my kids can't tolerate the heat, so I cook mine without. I'm going to get some of the chicken. The chicken is nice and tender, but it still has a nice bite to it. That's the reason why we use hard chicken, because we really want it to have a nice bite to it. To me, that's what makes this remind me of home. That's what makes this something so special to me. When you use hard chicken, it just has a different flavor. Okay friends, that's how you make delicious chicken tomato stew. I really hope you guys enjoyed spending time with me. If you want the full recipe, be sure to go to my blog preciouscall.com. If you liked the video, click on the like button. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not subscribed yet, and I'm going to see you guys in my next video. Bye.